I've always championed the idea of them not being related anymore, right? So strap yourself in. But
hello, I'm Callum from Pop Culture Patter.
And my name's Barry, and I'm from Wolfman's Got Nards, and we're doing a little collaboration today.
Yep.
Callum's obviously got his own channel on YouTube, and I've got mine as well. I'm going to be talking about Halloween today, which Callum will discuss with us just now, and we'll be both uploading our videos to both our channels. They might be slightly different as well, so hopefully if you enjoy them you can watch them on both channels.
Yep. So we're going to be talking about David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy and how we would fix it, because while we both like David Gordon Green's trilogy, there's little fixes that we feel and stuff that could be removed to make it overall a much better piece of work that we would enjoy as fans.
Yeah, and I think the reason we're doing it is it's okay us doing it the way we're doing it is because we're doing it in hindsight. There's things that I'm sure David Gordon Green would love to change if he watches it back. Restrictions, COVID, that they had issues with for filming kills and ends, etc. So there's so many things that they had to do based on the limitations that they had at the time. But going back, I'm sure they would probably do similar things to us, maybe completely different. Maybe they're happy with the outcome that they had. But certainly I'm sure that everyone would agree that the trilogy is not perfect. And with the tweaks that we would personally make to us, they would probably be better. Yeah.
So we're going to look at the trilogy as a whole, and the only rule is that the changes that we make have to flow in with the trilogy that we're creating. So the changes, we can't change stuff that doesn't impact another film. That all has to flow in the one.
Yeah, so like I said to Callum before, if you're going to kill off Laurie Strode in your idea, which we won't do, if you kill off Laurie in 2018, then that obviously has a ripple effect and an impact on Kills and Ends. You can't include her. So any interactions that she had in Kills and Ends with people would obviously be affected by that. So
yeah, we
won't be too drastic.
And we also can't add characters in. I think that's a good way to do it. We have to stick with what we've got, but we can change certain things. We just can't like drop somebody in from the past.
Yeah, so we can't add. We can remove characters.
Yeah,
that would help, but we can't say, do you know what? Let's just add in Dr. Wynn.
Yeah,
that's going to help. Or let's add in somebody from the previous Halloween film that's not been included before. That would be a little bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
Because we would add in Dr. Loomis, 105 years old.
Do you want to just go for it from 2018?
Yeah, we'll structure it that way. Like we'll try our best to stick from beginning to the end, but we will venture off going back and forward because it's only natural to do so because it changes things.
And do you want to talk about the bits that we didn't like from each film, and then what we would change?
Yeah, but that's probably the best way to structure it, I would say.
Cool. We'll start with 2018. What are your issues with that film in particular?
It's funny because I've always championed the idea of them not being related anymore, right? So strap yourself in. But there's something inside of me that would have liked to have seen them being brother and sister.
Right.
Or at the very least, Michael believing that they're brother and sister and Laurie knowing that they're not brother and sister. And that gives Michael a reason to go after Laurie Strode, because I know he doesn't really technically go after her. It's Sartain that makes that happen, which we'll discuss. So I think that it felt too forced bringing them together in this one because they sacrificed the brother and sister aspect. So the idea was good on paper, but I think execution-wise, they could have just made them brother and sister.
Yeah, it wasn't hugely necessary to remove that, but we talked earlier. We both liked either way. It worked either way as well.
It would work both ways, yeah.
So, any in particular, the issues specifically, because mine is very detailed about, like, for me, Sartain.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't have that arc because it didn't really serve the story as a whole. It was also a bit unbelievable that a psychiatric doctor who's looks at least 60 years in the profession. I don't know how old he is, but he looked old.
He's about 60 odd.
So if he's had all that experience and worked under Dr. Loomis, do we believe he really wants to become a killer himself just to learn how it feels.
Yeah, it's too unrealistic for a film that's supposed to be more grounded than the previous films. Yeah, I think that was way too over the top, and it's almost like David Gordon Green realised that as they were filming. You know, when he put the mask on,
Yeah.
and then he took it off and he died. You're like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that to happen or continue. Thankfully, it only lasted a few minutes.
Yeah.
But why?
Aye.
I mean, that was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in a Halloween film.
Yeah, and you know, when you were talking about your videos of your 10 worst and 10 best, that was definitely in my top 2 of worst and a franchise full of a lot of bad moments. That is for me, when I watched that in the cinema, I thought, fucking hell.
Yeah, that was questionable.
Yeah. So that would change for me. I would still have him get on the bus and get shot by the kid as just a way to get him out of the picture.
Yeah.
And you can understand him wanting to see his patient through the next place. And if the bus crashes, you know, he can't do that.
Yeah.
That takes his arc out of the way. And I don't know if you bring him ever back in any of the others. I certainly wouldn't bring him back, but that was a closed book for me.
But in saying that, though, we might have liked him more if he didn't do what he done. So, like, if the bus crashes, we maybe feel sorry for him. Oh, it's a shame, Dr. Sartain. Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see him in a future film.
Uh-huh.
Maybe. But then, because he survived and because he's done what he done later on, you're like, get him out of here. He's awful.
I get the feeling they just liked his look. And they thought, right, I quite like this guy's look. It could be bad, could be good.
Well, I said this to you before, and I don't know if you want to talk about it yet, but he's obviously the new Loomis. That's what Laurie calls him.
Yeah.
But for me, the new Loomis, for me, randomly, was Aaron, who was one of the podcasters. And if you want to talk about that now, Aaron is something that I would change, and the fact that he didn't die. I always wanted Aaron to come back. Now, it didn't confirm that he died at the end of his scene, so they could easily have brought him back. But I wouldn't have killed off Aaron, whether he died or not. I wouldn't have killed him off, and I certainly would have brought him back, and he could have been that new, because he's British. I know that not every British person needs to be Dr. Loomis, but the sound of Aaron has got a familiarity.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's very familiar to Dr. Loomis, and the fact that he sounds like him.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to hate Aaron from the trailers and Dana, but I didn't. I loved them. And I thought they shouldn't have died, especially Aaron.
Yeah. Dana, for me, I think to move the story along, it was fine for her to die, and that gives Aaron another thing to be like, to be alive for and want to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people. You know, it gives him another arc. You could always have him going to the drink after dealing with that. You know what I mean? Seeing, I don't know if there were love interests. Certainly in the outtakes, there was something shot that they were in a motel room, and that was where
a deleted scene where he jumps into the shower with the mask on. Yeah.
So they didn't really allude to the fact that they were lovers or anything like that, and that might have been a bit forced. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
maybe that's why they removed that scene, like, where they were together.
Yeah.
They don't need that in there. So.
And in terms of as a whole, 2018 doesn't need a lot of work. I don't think.
I don't think so either.
I think I rewatched it the other night, and I thought, this is a good movie. If we took the Sartain thing out of it, little tweaks and changes here and there, it would be pretty solid. You know,
I would say so. Yeah, but even down to the characters. Everyone was a good character, apart from Sartain, which he was good to begin with. And he just veered off. But even to the smaller characters, like Ray, Alison's dad. I know that people hate this scene where he says, "I've got peanut butter all over my penis." People think that that's weird to say in front of your daughter, your teenage daughter, or your kid or whatever. And they don't think it fits into a Halloween film. Whereas for me, I've got kids, and I would say everything I could to embarrass my kid, because that's what you do as a parent. So I think what he done there was very realistic, and that's what I liked about the David Gordon Green's characters, is everyone felt realistic. You know, down to Ray, to Alison, Cameron. Maybe Oscar was a wee bit over the top. But he was still one of those kids that you get in school that they were just annoying.
Absolutely,
So realistic in that sense.
And that's one thing, as a whole, David Gordon Green's characters were all amazing. I wanted more time with them. I cared about them, you know, apart from Sartain. But like, 9 times out of 10 the characters were always spot on, and you wanted to be with them on this journey. But yeah, I would have liked to see a bit more of Dave. I think Dave was, for me, there was just more to do with him, and I felt killing him off camera, while it looked cool when Hawkins is investigating the house, I just kind of thought it's a bit of a waste. But
that's a good thing, because you liked him so much, and him dying, and it was a waste. You're like, we could have seen more of it, and if you did want to kill him, give us a detailed kill of him, you know.
I know. But and that kind of seemed to be David Gordon Green's thing, is the likeable characters all kind of died and met their demise. Yeah,
you know, the babysitter Vicky, she was great. I loved her as well. So I think most people who died, apart from Sartain, most people who died in the movie, I was disappointed in them dying because I liked them. Yeah,
I suppose that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what you want. A positive. Yeah.
In terms of 2018, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm just trying to see if I do have anything else that's on my notes. I think we've both had the same light bulb moment.
I bet we haven't, but let's go try it.
For me, I would love to see Laurie cause the bus crash.
Yes, the bus crash. That's it.
I would love to see her involved in that way, with her drinking and heading towards wanting to see Michael off. She thinks, right, I've got a moment to kill him, I'm going to do something reckless. That's where she's at in her head. And then Michael gets away somehow, but I would love it if Michael was in the woods watching Laurie trying to find him.
Yeah,
I think that would be really cool. And then you could have the scene where the young boy and his dad comes in, and that's how Michael gets the car. Yeah, because Laurie just flees straight after that and heads straight to the restaurant.
That could easily be edited in. Yeah, easily.
Aye, that would be so cool if Michael's like standing in the shadows, kind of watching her from afar.
And you don't see him because he's not got the mask at this point. Yeah. So all you see is the shape.
Yeah,
the shape.
Oh.
And she's like, when she goes to the restaurant, that could still be the same, because she's like, I saw him, the shape. Where did you see him? You saw him in the woods. You know, like she ran away, and she's like, what have I done here? I've caused the bus crash, and now he's escaped. All the material's there. Yeah. You just need to add that scene in, and it's done. It's brilliant.
And Karen can be like, oh, she's a fucking drunk. She's always does this. Like, sorry, but still play it the same way as she played it.
Exactly the same.
I would have Lonnie at that dinner table as well.
Yeah.
Beside Cameron, as in like the two families getting together. I would have him as a single dad. And that's a wee bit back and forth between Ray and Lonnie. I think that would be good character development for the two of them.
And that's our introduction to Lonnie. I wouldn't feel as forced as bringing him into kills. I'm like, well, where were you in Halloween 2018 when your son was there?
Yeah.
You know, obviously we're talking in hindsight.
Yeah, yes.
You know, so
everything in this is hindsight.
Yes. Knowing what we know. Obviously, they didn't know that back then. So having Lonnie at the dinner table introduces us to Lonnie's character, so that when we see him in Halloween Kills, we're like, there's Lonnie from the dinner table. Yep. And we know him from 78 as well, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Another character that I would throw in would be Corey in 2018. I would have him at high school with Alison, Cameron and Oscar, and just be that kind of lonely, geeky kind of kid that is getting bullied, and you could probably have Cameron and Oscar
doing that.
Give Cameron the Steve Harrington Stranger Things arc, where he's a fucking dick and you don't want to like him, and then he just becomes lovable throughout, and keep him and have that arc. But in 2018, have him kind of bullying Corey, so that we're introduced to Corey at that stage, and it's not so forced. And it just looks like you're making Cameron look like a bully. You're not actually introducing a character. You know. So I would have that as a wee slight change, and then Alison helping Corey up with the books, and Alison's the only person that's nice to Corey.
Yeah, so that would, I guess, I'm at that connection with her.
Yeah.
Now, personally, for me, as much as I like that idea, and I would run with that idea if we're keeping Corey there.
Yeah.
But my idea with Corey's completely different in Halloween Ends, which is why we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But if we've got Corey as a character, that's the best time to do it. Bring him into 2018 for definite. But I'll talk more of that soon.
Yeah.
You know.
And Hawkins, for me, I would have in 2018 start with a flashback. I think that would be a good way to be like, right, the last film we saw was 78. Michael disappeared we're all like, where the fuck is he gone? But you get caught up by he got arrested. That's a good flashback. It gets everybody introduced to the world again of Haddonfield. It looks great. We all say, I don't think there's anybody that said the flashback looked terrible.
It's the best thing everybody's saying, you know.
And have that be the introduction and then lead into what they're doing now. So go into Michael at Smith's Grove, have that the same, and have Aaron and Dana go to meet Laurie. I think that was very, very good to catch you up to the characters, but have the flashback in there just to kind of be like, so that you can have flashbacks at other times.
Well, that also, having the flashback to begin with would also give us a good introduction to Hawkins.
Yeah.
You know, as a young guy saying, oh, okay, so who's this guy? Okay, his name's Hawkins. And now we see Will Patton as the older Hawkins. So now, even though we've only got a 10-minute intro, we already know him. We already know why he's there. Yeah. Whereas we're finding that out in Kills instead of 18.
And that's what I thought. When you meet Hawkins for the first time, you think, I should know this guy.
Yeah, because he seems like a really decent, prominent guy in the franchise.
And I was always thinking, was he a part of the franchise before? I don't remember him. I don't think so. We didn't really have him in it. And I was kind of thinking, the way it was shot, where he's like playing the pinball and it just kind of cuts to him and you see him, and I'm like, this is a reveal. Whereas that would have paid off if you had the flashback at the start of the film.
I think it's also because Laurie knows him. It's almost like because Laurie knows him, we're supposed to know him.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't. But I felt like I did know him because he had a lot of screen presence and I loved him. So I already automatically thought, I know this guy, even though I didn't.
Yeah, he's a great character actor.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, I would have that happen, and I would also, we have to think about the change between, if we're taking Sartain out of it, how do we get Hawkins injured so that he's out of the way till Kills, and how do we get Michael to Laurie's house?
Do we keep Hawkins out of the way though? You know, we've just confirmed that we don't like Sartain.
Yeah.
And we love Hawkins. More Hawkins would be better for me.
Yeah, true.
If you still want to injure him, that's fine. He can get injured anyway, really, you know.
Yeah.
Not injured to the point where he's almost dead.
Because I always thought it was weird that when Hawkins goes into the house, that the babysitters killed the blonde girl.
Yeah, Vicky.
Michael just walked straight by him. And that kind of pissed me off. I was like, Michael would have killed him where he stood, like if that was the old Michael, but like he just walked by him.
Maybe it was the Buster Rhymes Michael. He gets told what to
do. But yeah, that could... No, you couldn't injure him then. But I like the fact in Kills that Laurie and Hawkins are both in the hospital together and they're both recovering together, and that forms that bond. I think that needed that. So we need to injure him somehow. So maybe an altercation with Michael.
Could be like you just said, when he walked past him, give him a kick to the knee or something and he's hurt himself.
Or just stab him somewhere that you would survive, but puts him out of the game.
Yep.
And then how do we get Michael to Laurie's house for the finale?
Well, yeah, that's when the brother-sister aspect comes in again for me.
Yeah.
You know, because of the way it played out, Sartain was the instrument for that.
Yeah.
And he took him there, almost held his hand because he doesn't know Laurie. But then if we still make it either Laurie and Michael are brother and sister, or, like I said, Michael still believes that that's his sister.
Yeah.
Then, like, not that he believes it's his sister, it's because it reminds him of Judith Myers.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've not got you out of my head because you remind me of my sister. Yeah. And that's why he remembers Laurie, not because he attacked her, but because she always reminds him of Judith. Yeah. So in his head, he believes you're my sister, so I'm going after you. So we don't need anyone to take him there.
That's true.
He just goes there.
Or we could have Alison, because Alison's part of that journey, right? Alison goes through the woods.
Yeah, so he follows her through the woods, maybe.
And that, you know, that creepy scene where all the bodies that
the mannequins,
yeah, could have him standing there, and she gets a fright, and like he's chasing her, and just build a bit more intensity.
Yeah.
Alison gets into the house, goes under again with Karen in the bunker, and then the rest of it plays out the same way. Yeah. You just need to get Michael to Laurie, basically. But he could be chasing Alison. And that could be a way.
All that could be added in from footage they've already got again.
Yeah.
And they've got some deleted and extended scenes where she's running through the woods with the mannequins and stuff. There's some extended scenes with that. Just use that.
Yeah.
And that could be used to push the story forward rather than giving us the Sartain thing. Easy.
And I think that's 2018. I don't think we would change too much about the ending. I think that was...
Again, the things that we would change is not drastic.
No.
You know, there might be some drastic things in kills and ends, but for this one, it's more of a, what's your taste?
Yeah.
And how you want it to play out. And like we said, the footage that they've got already could be changed and chopped to go with what we're saying.
Yeah, so basically what we're asking is if there's anybody that fancies himself as an editor out there, once we've finished recording this, take all the films together and piece them together for us. We'll make up a Barry and Callum cut.
Easy. Well, I did do my Corey cut for Halloween Ends, taking out all the Michael and keeping Corey. And I've done it the other way around, taking out the Corey and putting in all the Michael.
That'd be a short movie.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We are. So, yeah, I loved the scene I spoke about earlier. One of my favourite scenes in the entire franchise is actually Laurie hunting through the house for Michael once she shot his hand and closing all the doors. I thought that was super intense. I remember the feeling like it was yesterday in the cinema, experiencing that. I thought, I've not felt this intense probably since I watched the first Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, Michael could pop out at any time and I would get a fright. And I hadn't really felt that in any horror movies after that. So it was a real cool moment for me. But I wouldn't change anything to do with that ending. I think the fight went for as long as it needed to. The ending was great with Michael being in the bunker.
Yeah.
I thought there's not much to change there. So
exactly, and they left it, even though it looks like he was dying, they still left it very ambiguous. Where did he die? Did they not die? And then the breathing at the end, you heard the breathing at the end credits. So yeah, I think it was a good ending that I probably wouldn't change. In fact, they changed the ending because he was obviously in the woods and he was dying out on the tree. So they changed it to the ending that we probably would have kept.
Yeah.
So they done the right thing.
Absolutely. I think there would have been something cool in seeing Michael up against a tree, Old Man Logan style, like bleeding out and just being like the breathing just getting slower and slower and slower and then it just stops. I think that would have been cool, but maybe that could have been for another movie since we've got that great ending already.
It's like, I don't know if you said it on air, but like you said, when he's looking at Laurie and the girls up at them as the flames are going by, that's epic.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good.
There's not been a moment like that for many films that I've been like, that is incredible. You feel sorry for him. He's puppy dog eyes. I know he's not got puppy dog eyes, but you look at his
eyes, the devil's eyes.
And it just takes you by surprise because you almost feel sorry. As soon as he's been trapped, he's looking up at being like, and he's also kind of like, touche, you've caught me.
And why are you doing this to me?
Look at so much emotion from just a guy standing
and
in
an
a room.
emotionless blank face.
Yeah, and that's difficult to pull off. So that's one thing I absolutely loved about that. And with that being said, I don't think we've got too many changes to 2018. So nothing else. I don't think.
No, the most drastic thing would be Sartain.
Yeah,
but he's easily removable.
Absolutely,
because he's pointless anyway.
So,
easy peasy.
So we'll move on to kills, and we'll see what will happen. Another thing I wanted to mention was see the music that plays before, like you know when the Universal logo comes up and it just kind of like. It's a nice, or like weird, makes you kind of atmospheric, makes you kind of ready for a Halloween movie. I loved that. I loved the music at the start.
Yeah, I think title scenes are very important.
Yeah,
and two movies that does it for me big time is The Conjuring. When the Conjuring sign comes up, you hear that like it's rising, and the latest one was Evil Dead Rise. Yeah. When she comes out of the water and Evil Dead Rise comes behind. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, that is amazing.
That was very cool.
Getting hooked from the title gets you sitting forward.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, here we go.
Because it kind of just set the tone for me. I was just kind of like, oh, it's dark in here. I feel kind of eerie. This music's just kind of making me feel like... But
I think the 2018, going back to that, it's got a good title scene where you've got Aaron saying like, say something, and it just goes, poof, Halloween, and then it gives you the tune. I'm like, whoa, we're in for something different here.
But then Would we, if we go with my opening with the flashback, that's then a title sequence as well, innit? So it's kind of like I wanted to have the flashback first.
I would have the flashback first as well, but you could still give that
that's
Halloween
true
at the end of it.
Yeah.
Imagine just seeing like Michael being arrested by the police, Sartain, Dr. Loomis behind him, like he comes out the house and sees him, and then zooming out and then just going Halloween. You're like, whoa.
And then straight into the
because that's
theme.
basically a recap as well of what you missed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's all you need to know, because he's been locked up since then.
Yeah. Here's Michael. Here's what you need to know. This is how he got caught. Halloween.
Yeah. And I loved the title cards in every one of the films as well.
Same.
I thought they were so well done. So happy with 2018, the changes. We both agreed on those as well, which is good. Who knows how long that's going to continue, but
we've just put Halloween up to a 7.5 on IMDb
now. I genuinely think people might look back at these movies with a bit more kind of, and 10, 15 years, they might look back at them and be like, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, more kindly towards it. Considering that you've got Halloween 5 in there and Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, I think these will age better than those movies.
Is there still hate for Ends? Is there still the same hate?
I don't think there should be.
No.
But there will be for now. I think it's still a wee bit soon for people to accept.
That's true. It's too soon.
Shame
on you.
Yeah. Shame on you.
So we're moving into
Kills,
which is interesting because we've kept Aaron alive. So I'm very curious to. This is turning into fan fiction now, innit? I'm very curious as to what you would do with him from the next two films, or would you keep him from all of those?
If we're going to keep him in Halloween Kills, I think he's already an established character. So have him in there instead of having the Tivoli scenes, the old guy who goes up to the the riots and he jumps to his death.
Yeah, little penguin guy.
So so him, as much as I didn't mind that scene, I actually thought it was okay. Yeah. Because I think it's a little bit too on the nose in terms of social commentary. Yeah. With what's happening in the real world, judging people and stuff. Yeah. I think it's okay in moderation, but I think it lasted a little bit too long, and it was a little too on the nose. Yeah. So maybe dialing that down, saving 5-10 minutes screen time for someone like Aaron. Yeah. Whether he goes to the hospital to see if Laurie's okay, anything like that. He could even die in Halloween Kills. I don't mind. Yeah. But if you want to make him a prominent character, keep him alive.
Just do something with him.
Give him something to do, because I think he has so much potential. In 2018, I was surprised at how great he was. Yeah. He's a good actor as well. Yeah. He's in House of the Dragon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So he might be up and coming.
That's
Why
true.
not tie him down to a trilogy before he gets too big? Yeah. So replace Tivoli scenes with Aaron. And I think that's how you put Aaron in there. What you do with him, though, I don't know.
The one thing that I know we've moved on to Kills, I'm going to change one slight thing in 2018. The scene where Michael gets the mask in the back of the car.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I really didn't like seeing Michael during the day. I know a lot of 78s in the day. I just didn't like, it looked a bit naff for me where he's closing the boot and he's put the mask on. The first time that you should see Michael in the mask is the tracking shot.
In the dark.
And in the dark.
In the street.
When he's going and killing people. And that should be the moment that you see him. Yeah. So that's the only change, and we'll go back to Kills now.
Yeah, I mean, I think staying on that for a second, worst comes to worst, if you do have to get the mask for the first time out the trunk or the boot, make it dark.
Yeah, make it at night.
Make it nighttime.
Yeah.
Anyway. Kills.
Yes, so Kills. A lot of my gripes come with the riot atmosphere of people rioting and being like, evil dies tonight and all that kind of thing.
You've even got one woman taking an iron to the fight.
Yeah.
So
I'd have loved to have just seen a bit more of the psychological effects that Michael has on the town in terms of people becoming a bit more reclusive. Haddonfield's almost become a bit of a ghost town. People are fed up of Michael having this over the town, so that's what causes the uproar. But I just didn't like the whole rioting at the hospital scene and that leading into the Tivoli scene. I wasn't a huge fan of that at all, and especially Evil Dies Tonight. I just thought that was very, very cheesy, and I just wanted a bit more this is a chance to show more of the town, the world that you've built. A bit more of Tommy, give him something to do. A bit more of Lindsay. What has Lindsay been up to? Like, they didn't really do anything with those characters. Those characters were just designed to be there because, one, they were characters that they could bring back.
Yeah.
Because if they're retconning everything, you know,
they're all there already.
Sheriff Brackett felt forced for me as well. As much as I loved seeing him on screen, I think it would have been cool to do something a bit better with him.
Yep.
So that's my biggest gripe with it.
You know that he didn't even get a scene with Laurie?
No. Huh? That's right, yeah.
So what's the point in bringing back a character like Brackett and he can't even interact with Laurie?
It's a good point. Have him sitting by her bedside.
Cuddle her?
Yeah.
You know, do something. They obviously know each other because they still lives in the same town.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's seen him for the first time in years or anything.
No.
She knows he exists. He knows she exists. They know they live in the same town. Interact.
Have her holding his hand and they've been like, can you believe this is happening to us again?
Yeah.
And like that's casting up all of Annie's drama with him. And they're just kind of morally supporting each other. Give them something emotional to do, not just be like, Laurie.
Yeah, oh, there's Laurie. She's run away.
And then he's just like confused old man, you know, like give him something to do. I also didn't like the mob scene where it's Michael against the mob.
Yeah, I didn't like that
the
at all.
cuts in that a lot of my problems with Kills are the camera work, like the different slashes and the very arty, like he slashes somebody's throat and it's like
Yeah, see, to me that was like a music video or something.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like that end at all.
and it was the same with Karen's death.
Yeah.
Just the cuts weren't good. It wasn't intense. I didn't really feel anything towards it. I wanted to feel like fuck, he's killed Karen, you know, like
See, to me it felt like because of COVID and stuff, they went back to that scene and they edited it the way they thought they could with no extra footage and no way to shoot extra footage. And it just felt rushed.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? That's not a good ending to what was a decent film for me. And they ended it that way. I'm like, ooh,
yeah.
what are we watching here?
It felt like a different movie, didn't it? The last wee bit of it just felt like a different movie.
It also, you know, I know I like to say that Michael's human. So, but when he's fighting the mob and they're shooting him and stuff and stabbing him, I'm like, with every shot and every stab that he's surviving, it questions his morality and humanity.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't do that. That's why John Carpenter's Halloween was so good, because he didn't cross that line of you being able to say, oh, well, he's not a human then, because I mean, people can be shot 6 times. People can fall off 2 stories.
Yeah.
You can survive that
He
easy.
had a pitchfork through his back.
Yeah.
And then got up and walked. Like, I think she stamped in his neck at one point.
Yeah.
Did you know?
His like his head bit.
Yeah.
Well, literally would have killed you.
Yeah. Which we'd seen Michael do in 2018, stamping somebody's head.
Yeah.
But it was just a bit kind of all over the place towards the end. And
It was more of an unbelievable movie than Ends and 18, I think.
So changes then, what changes have you got for Kills?
So apart from I would change the Tivoli scene.
Yep.
Make it smaller or non-existent.
Yep.
Still set it around the hospital though, because obviously Laurie's should be a focus.
Yeah.
And she's in hospital. Another one, a big one for me is, will lead on to Ends,
Right.
but it would be to keep Cameron alive.
Yeah.
Because out of all the characters before Corey was introduced, out of all the characters in these movies, Cameron was the best for me, because he had an arc that we can all relate to. He is a guy who you hate at the beginning, the way he treats Alice and the way he just treats life. Yeah. He's a dickhead.
Yeah.
But then there's something about him that he just redeems himself so much in Halloween Kills. Yeah. And one of my favourite characters in the whole franchise. And is Dylan Arnold, who plays Cameron, who is a fine actor.
Absolutely.
He's going to do massive things.
Yeah.
He's actually filming a few films just now.
Right.
He's probably going to get Oscar nods for.
Yeah.
There's a film that's coming out called April 1992, I think it's called.
Right.
It's about the Rodney King incident in America.
Cool.
And he's part of the riots.
Right.
So I've seen a few images of him, and I just think he's going places.
I loved him in You.
I've not seen
the
that, but I
Netflix
heard he's
show.
good in it.
He's fantastic in that, and it was kind of when it was. I think that season came out, or it's maybe just I watched it after that point. It came out right after Kills, and because he died in Kills, it was like we were getting our Cameron fix.
Yeah,
and
we're getting him back
and it
again,
was just brilliant. You know?
Again, that's something that David Gordon Green done well, was give us a character that we can hate and then get behind. And I think his death was the hardest to take for me, because I really wanted him to survive and do the right thing, but he didn't survive. And we'll talk more about that in Ends.
Yep.
But yeah, I would change Cameron being alive. Lonnie, for the idea that I've got for Ends, he needs to stay dead.
Right.
Lonnie, as in up in the attic.
Okay.
Maybe kill him in a different way that we could see. But for the impact that I've got for Cameron, Lonnie needs to die still.
Yeah. I think just give that. It felt very much he went in the house and straight away died.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted a bit more tension there. Like, we could have had a bit more of him trying to find Michael. It felt very much like Michael was just standing waiting for him at the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, that we know that wasn't the case, but it felt, and I know films try to cut stuff like that out because it'll become a bit inflamed but let it breathe.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like he walked into the house and you're like, okay, this is going to be intense. He's going to try and find Michael. Something's going to happen. And then it's just like Cameron and Alison were just straight into the house after him. So, yeah, have a bit more time with him. I do agree, as much as I love Lonnie, like, I don't mind him staying dead.
I also don't mind off-screen deaths, as long as we know the context of the death. Like, I like the death, see the one shot in 2018 where you see the old lady making the sandwich.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
Walking away and then see Michael picking up a knife and going towards her. We can put in our heads what happened.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to Lonnie.
Yeah.
It looked like to me that if I had to envision it, Michael grabbed him, folded him in two, and stuck him up the loft. You know, like, there's no context to that whatsoever. So I think,
I know, he's just doing housekeeping, really.
yeah. It's like, why are you climbing up? Did you climb up there?
Did he go up the ladder? What happened?
Did Michael throw you?
I know.
I don't know. It's just weird. Even to this day, when I watch it again, I'm like, I still can't see what position his body's in.
Yeah.
Is it folded or is it just hanging out?
It's very strange. And, you know, obviously he did a little bit of that in the original. You know, the body comes hanging down. That was really, really good. I think they just kind of think they need to put that in there, but
that's okay.
Yeah,
but not with Lonnie, because I loved him.
Yeah, me too. I like that. They showed up Midnight Mass as well. It was another great TV show.
Robert Longstreet, his name is.
Yeah, it's always good to see him. So yeah. Also, more characters that I loved is Big John and Little John.
Yeah, they're good.
What, like, I could easily just watch a sitcom with them too.
Yeah,
you know, like, they're just so well written. Their scenes, they chewed up the scenery. It was such a good dynamic. Both two great actors. Again, another off-screen death with Little John. He goes into the room and he's like, Michael, you've come home.
But that's a good one because we can kind of figure out what's going to happen here.
And then you just hear him screaming, and it was just so good. But yeah, their banter was...
I think the best part of their scenes were when Big John or Little John says, I've got this knife. He goes, and I've got this knife. I was like, that's unintentionally funny comedy gold.
Yeah.
Not forced. It's just natural.
I know.
It's so good. I would imagine half of those lines that they said were probably improvised.
Yeah.
Because they're so good and they bounce off each other well.
I know, it was so well done. And again, they meet their demise, but I would keep it that way because that's what they were there for. They were there to be other people to kill.
Yeah.
It's a sequel. They want to ramp up the kills.
And it's called Kills. Yeah.
But the characters, again, that David Gordon Green writes, they're just great.
They're good.
You know?
I mean, again, apart from Sartain, who started off well, I don't know if there's any badly written characters.
No. Well, Tommy, I think Tommy was maybe.
But that's maybe it's more dialogue for Tommy because he was written in a way that he was believable and he was getting to a point where I was like, right, okay, we can see him going somewhere until it didn't.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the script and the dialogue was the worst parts for Tommy. But I think in person and presence, he was fine.
Yeah.
You know?
He looked exactly what you thought Tommy would look
Could
like.
have looked like, you know, so...
And it was good casting. It just did, for me, they just didn't do enough with him. They just brought him in to kill him, which just wasn't for me.
In terms of the kills and Halloween kills, personally, I wouldn't change how most people died on screen.
Yeah, the very funny one with the girl dressed as a nurse, that made me kill myself.
Yeah, I mean that was like pure like whoa.
You
know, even her boyfriend as well, like getting stabbed in the eye.
Yeah,
some really good. And the prosthetics, hardly any CGI was used for those scenes, which was great.
Aye.
So I think the kills is things that I don't think I would change much about the kills.
I wonder if the guy Radio Silence saw that scene and thought, no, Wes in Scream 5, he gets the stab to the face, and they kind of did that with like prosthetics and stuff like that.
It went through his neck.
It goes through like his, does not go through his like. No, it didn't. It went through his neck. Yeah, I was thinking it went through his cheek, but it's the other guy. It's the other way around. Yeah. I wonder if they took inspiration from that, thinking it can be done. So let's try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the kills were all good. I'm trying to think if there's any that I didn't really sit with me. Again, go back to 2018. I felt Ray's death was a bit kind of forced. It wasn't great.
The cowbells.
Yeah. Not that you would want to see him. I think maybe that's what they've gone for. You don't want to see him getting brutally murdered, like stabbed and like.
They missed a trick though. They should have put peanut butter on his trousers as he's dying.
He still didn't get it off. Yeah,
I got peanut butter off my penis.
So good.
Classic.
Yeah, I would take away the Evil Dies Tonight as well.
Yeah,
Evil
maybe
Dies.
Once, because it wasn't Tommy that started that. That was that wee random lady that started that.
Yeah.
She says, "Evil dies tonight." And he's like, "That's a good line.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that every 5 minutes." So maybe once by someone, not him.
Yeah. And I think just the riotous town, I didn't like the whole, I want to see panic that they bring, that Michael brings to the town.
Yeah.
And I know they were going for that evil infects people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the overarching theme. Yeah, metaphorically, but there's ways that you could have made the panic a bit more kind of like, how would people react? They wouldn't riot.
No, I think it would be more fearful. It's a small town. So I think the riots felt more rebellious than fearful.
Yeah.
You know, because they had nothing to fear altogether. So fear would be them scampering, going into their houses, locking their doors, pulling down their blinds. That would be more impactful. Whereas they're all a pure rebellion. Let's get our irons out. Let's get our guns out, our
golf
baseball
clubs.
bat, everything, you know. So maybe a small group of people doing that, like Tommy and a couple of the other guys, would be more realistic than the whole town going, "Evil dies tonight."
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this, 1666 with the Salem witch trials?
It wasn't good at all. And, you know, see when you're talking about people closing their doors in panic, that's where you could have an extra scene or two where Michael was in one of their houses.
Yeah.
You know,
like we saw in the one track with the woman who had it in the neck.
Yeah.
Marion Song. She was standing looking out a window and you seen the shadow of Michael going behind the building and coming in through the back door.
Yeah, that
fantastic.
Was so good.
That's when they had time to think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Kills and Ends, it felt more rushed.
It did, didn't it? It kind of felt like, oh, we didn't think we were making another two or another one after 2018 and just whatever they got. But that got delayed for 2 years, didn't it? Like, I wonder what they always said. There's not much changed, and of course they're going to say that.
Yeah, Ends especially.
I wonder how it did change.
Yeah, I wonder too, because they've not revealed at what extent.
Yeah, it
would be good to know.
And I wonder if there will be like a David Gordon Green cut, or if the theatrical is his cut.
I think most of it would be his. I think they trusted, because of the success of 18.
Yeah,
I think they trusted his judgment, so most of it would have been greenlit for him to go. This is my project. Yeah,
that's true. I know. There's not. You would know by now if somebody's made changes. Like you know, Rob Zombie had 3 different versions of 2007. But
it'd be like James Cameron. Like nobody's going to tell him what to do.
Yeah,
they're going to be like, right, your cut is the cut we're using.
Yeah,
and I think similar to David Gordon Green, we've already made our profit. Do what you need to do.
But it should be the way.
Oh, it definitely should.
Should be the way.
If
Let the filmmaker make the film that they want to make.
100%.
Just back them, because that's how you get, like, when studios are involved and stuff like that, when you get that gem that's not cost a lot of money to make and then it just makes like 20 times its budget, and you're like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's because the filmmaker made the film he wanted to make.
You then get the creative output to go and do another one, and that's what they tried with Kills and Ends, which didn't really work. Like if you look at Deadpool, that cost $55 million, and it made, was it $760 million or something?
Yeah.
So they're like, right, okay, we're doing this to part 2. You choose who's playing Cable, and that's what Reynolds done. He's like, I want Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
And then they got him because they trusted his judgment.
And even at that point, he was Thanos.
Yeah.
So they were like, on you go.
Don't give a shit. We're taking him.
For me, I would incorporate a lot of ends and kills. I would have Michael still escape the same way through the fire.
Yeah.
But I would have him go into hiding and kind of be away for the majority of the movie. And then that gives you more time to be in with Corey.
Yeah.
Have the kind of...
This is Corey and Kills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that in Ends, it's Corey just before he's about to crack. So you don't need to build that up.
You've built up through the first and second.
So you've teased them in the first by just showing them and giving them a little bit of context.
Knowing that it exists.
Yeah. Then in Halloween Kills, have him kind of struggle with getting... I would have the wee boy die and Kills on the same night as 2018.
Yeah, so Michael Spree. Yeah, I would do the same.
So the mum and the dad that are going away to the fancy dress party, they're going to the same bar that Tommy, Lindsay, Marion and all that are at. And that's how they come home early because they've seen Michael Myers, the town's going into a bit of a panic. Like they're coming home to get their wee boy from being babysat and then he dies. And that's another fuck me moment, you know what I mean?
They're coming home to say to Corey, like, you better go home, Corey. Michael Myers is on the loose.
Yeah.
But as they open the door.
And that then leads into, like, Corey being bullied further and people being like, he's the baby killer and all that. You're just like Michael Myers and blah, blah, blah. And just people...
Well, this might be a little far-fetched, but can you imagine that Michael is out there killing people, so that wee boy's parents come back to tell Corey to go home, but before they get in the house, he already dies, and Corey does a runner.
Right.
So they come into the house and they see their boy dead, and think Michael's done it and not Corey. And Corey's felt guilty and ran away.
Yeah, that could be a good shout as well.
That would change the whole aspect of everything, but that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, that could be good. And I was kind of just thinking, like, have Michael escape, but nobody knows that he's escaped until much, much later on.
Okay.
Like Hawkins will find out or something. But Hawkins is in hospital as well. And maybe have Karen know. She sees the news report or something like that and just doesn't tell anybody because she's like, I don't want to cause panic. My mum's in bed trying to recover from that surgery, which I found weird that they were like, as they were operating on her, they were like, she's going to have a very sore stomach for a wee while. And they're just trying to make it be like, what is Laurie's body going to be put through?
Yeah, so letting us know.
Yeah, it's just the dialogue of she's going to have a very sore tummy.
It's almost like the spoon feed is everything in Kills.
Yeah.
Like they think we're going to be stupid.
Aye.
But maybe we are.
Another thing about Kills that I loved is when they demask him, and he goes to the door, and you do hear the words "give it back." Very, very like, and I know a lot of people are like, "No," and some people are like, "Yeah, I can hear it." Every time I've watched it since I've came out of the cinema, I can hear it.
Give it back.
It's just like give it back. You just can't hear it.
I think it's just the sound playing with our ears. It's because somebody said that we're focusing on that.
Yeah,
almost like we can hear it.
But I definitely. I swear hand on heart, I can hear it every single time.
I can hear it as well, but I still think it's not there, but I can still hear it.
Yeah.
Because I made myself believe it.
And I thought that was quite cool because it's almost like a connection with his mask, and that's what they were alluding to at the start with Aaron holding up the mask. There's the connection there. But yeah, moving on to more of Kills. What else have you got? So
Kills is... ultimately for me, again, it's more structure than tiny bits. And the structure is the Tivoli and Cameron being alive for my idea for Ends.
Yeah.
Cameron has to survive. And even if I didn't have any idea for him, I still wanted him to survive.
Yeah. I would have Cameron having the arc kind of similar to what he's had, where he kind of becomes a bit more likable. But then there's a love triangle between Corey, Cameron, and Alison, because Alison's like, you just kissed a girl at a party, blah blah blah. Now
I'm going to kiss Corey.
She's now like using Corey to make Cameron jealous, but at the same time, like, they're building that connection with Corey that when you come to ends, she fully goes with.
Yeah.
And that plants that little seed. And then it's all a bit like Cameron struggling with that. He maybe takes it out on Corey a wee bit, but he's also kind of like, I can't really do this. I would just have something in that, just because I just think in ends it's too forced with Corey, just his story's just completely like put into one movie. I just little teases and breadcrumbs over the two movies, and then the time jump happens and ends, so that you've got Corey that where we get him towards the middle of ends, and pick up from there.
Yeah.
But in terms of kills, I've kind of spoke about the things that I didn't like about it and what I would change. Is there anything else you've got from it?
No, surprisingly, I think Kills is quite a complete film. A few minor changes. I think I would change less of Kills than I would of 18.
Right.
I don't say, it doesn't mean I like Kills better.
Yeah.
I just think because Kills is more about the kills, and it focuses less on dialogue and more on the action, then I think they couldn't go too wrong. And where the action happened was great, you know, the firefighter scenes and stuff. So I think the Kills is quite a complete film for me, because it bridges a gap between Ends and 18. It just serves as a middleman for the trilogy. So there's not much you can go wrong, because whatever you do possibly wrong, you'll fix in Ends anyway, or you think at least you should. So I think Kills is, I like it.
Yeah, when I rewatched it again, it always annoyed me with the mob, with the cuts on the mob fighting Michael and Karen's death, the cuts on all of that. I feel like Karen's death could have just been done a wee bit better and not so psycho cuts.
Yeah,
and
that was nuts.
Like, I'd just like that to have been a bit more like, fuck.
Yeah, even Killer at the staircase when Alison was there, broken her leg. When she puts the fork into Michael, maybe Michael can turn around and just kill kill Karen there, rather than doing the whole psycho cut. Yeah,
I think it's quite impactful, and the place takes place where it does.
In the bedroom,
and he's looking out the window, and it's kind of just like, right, I'm coming for you now. I've killed your daughter, kind of thing. Like, it's like him getting a wee bit of a one up on Laurie, but then you're kind of making it tit for tat, aren't you?
But again, in hindsight,
he doesn't know.
In hindsight, he's looking out the window. When we first watched Halloween Kills, we're like, he's looking out the window. This is going to mean so much.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't.
I know.
So in hindsight, knowing that now, I wouldn't have him looking out the window if they weren't intending to use that as any sort of reason.
Yeah. Because people were, when you saw the radio tower and Ends, everybody was going off their nut.
I know, like, who's looking over there? Yeah.
That's what he's looking at. It's giving him radiation. That's what's making him a psycho and all that. And I was like, I doubt they're going to do anything with the radio tower, and they didn't.
They didn't.
That's us moved on to Ends. So this is probably going to take a bit more of the time, in terms of, it's probably one movie that we both want to change the most.
I would say so, yeah.
So where do you want to start with Ends?
Well, there's two versions of Ends that I wouldn't mind seeing, and that involves your idea with Corey being involved in 18 Kills and Ends, and I would have it, instead of the band geeks in this, don't have them in it at all, but that would obviously take away some things that we like.
Yeah.
But if you remove the band geeks and make the bully Cameron still, then Corey could snap at Cameron instead of the band geeks. So we've got two characters that have been built up through the movies, and it comes to a big tension in the third one. So that would make more sense if we're keeping Corey there. But another story, Corey's story, another story that I would think of, and I've mentioned it before, is not having Corey at all. He doesn't exist.
Right.
And instead of Corey, we've got Cameron. So Cameron in the first one is a dick.
Yeah.
In the second one, he redeems himself and he's a hero.
Yeah.
But his dad dies.
Yeah.
And because his dad dies and he's went through all that trauma, he's went through probably just as much trauma as Corey did at the start of Ends.
Yeah.
Maybe more. He then snaps. He's the new Corey. So we already have that established character from 18, kills, and now Ends. We've got Cameron who survived. He can't deal with it. Michael's went missing. He killed his dad. He's going nuts, blah, blah, blah. And he's the one that snaps.
Yeah.
And he becomes the new Michael Myers.
Yeah. My only problem is that I just, now that I've seen Corey and the vulnerability it brings to that, like, with Cameron being a dick in the first one and then being good in the second one, is it too much to be like, he can turn evil? But I get what you mean.
I would play with our emotions because we're going through that journey with Cameron.
Yeah.
Seeing him being an arsehole, then seeing him being a good guy, and then he's obviously all of a sudden turned bad. But like, what are we thinking here? What's happening with Cameron? I don't want him to do this.
Yeah. I guess you could always just push him with that love triangle, because in Ends I was planning to go with Alison going towards Corey because, you know, she's kind of done with Cameron. And I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm not finalised on what I think my ending would be with that.
Yeah.
I think for me, Ends will still end the same way. But Corey's arc is just slightly tweaked to the point where he leads the cop, the Mulaney. Fuck the Mulaney's, by the way. You know,
Doyle rules. Sorry, that was
that's exactly
Billy
what
Madison.
I was thinking. I think that's why they put it in there. Like, we need to have
the big fans of Billy Madison. Doyle rules. I just think of that film every time I see them.
I know, but she leads the Mulaney cop into he leads the Mulaney cop into the sewer. Michael has been hibernating there for a while, so similar. Keep that similar. Have him kill the cop, and Corey get away. So almost Corey loses his life. He escapes. He then kills the hobo the same way as he does, and then that leads Michael to go after Corey now. So Michael's always 2 steps behind Corey. Corey's away. He's now got this clown mask persona. I think that was quite cool. And he is going on that downward spiral, not necessarily going down the infected route or the transferring of evil. He's just starting to become that naturally because nobody's been nice to him. Alison's the only one that he's been nice to, so he's of course going to try and pursue that. But also Alison becomes his Laurie.
Yeah.
And he goes to, I'm torn. I think he kills the DJ because the DJ fucks them about.
Yeah.
That explains why
And
he did that, and it's a kill. But then Dr. Mathis's house, I think both Michael and Corey are both coming to the same point. Michael kills the nurse and Corey kills the Dr. Mathis, and then there's that glass in between the two rooms, and they just have a stare off as if like, I'm the young buck, I'm coming after your title.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're 2 steps ahead of me, I'm coming for you. And then that's what leads into him going back to Laurie's house, but just draw that out so that Michael's actually after Corey.
Yeah.
He's not after anybody else.
And he leads them unintentionally to like Alison or Laurie and stuff.
Exactly. And then when obviously they're in Laurie's house, don't make that so quick.
Yeah, definitely.
Build it up. So you'll have the scene where she's away up the stairs to go and try, and you think she's going to kill herself. And I generally, see when I heard the gunshot go off, I thought, fuck.
I was like, yes.
I was just like, they've not just killed her off like that. But then I was like, I get it. And have that scene. So she fights with Corey, have that play out the same. And by that time, Michael's caught up and he's kind of watching this happen almost and waiting for his moment. And somehow he stabs Corey in the throat, and that's Corey out of the game. So Corey's now voiceless and a mute. And then Laurie's hiding somewhere in the house, not exactly in the location that she was in Ends, but just have a bit of a cat and mouse, let the intensity build up a little bit, because it felt very much Corey and Laurie, and then straight into Michael and Laurie, and it was just a brutal fight. There was no tension, there was no build up.
And it all took place in the one area as well.
So you think Laurie's moving on, but she's actually just set another trap in her house for Michael. So she's not lost that. Because I felt they kind of made her back to Laurie in the original. You know, they built her up as Sarah Connor. She's always going to have that in her. But then they were like, no, we'll try and make you Laurie again.
So that's what I want to talk about as well. The whole attitude, not just with Laurie, but the whole town.
Yeah.
You know, the town didn't look like Haddonfield anymore.
No.
You remember in Halloween Kills, the whole town was rebellious. Laurie was nuts, and Michael was on the loose.
Yeah.
Now with Halloween Ends, Karen's dead. Laurie should be a lot more crazy.
Yeah.
But she's not. She's relaxed.
No.
Michael is still on the loose. She didn't even think he died. Like in 18, you could let her off because she thought he died because the house was burning down.
Yep.
But in Ends, she had no reason for her to think that he died because he just went missing after looking out the window. So she's calm, even though she knows he's not dead. The whole town's calm, even though they all know he's not dead.
Yeah.
So why is everybody so calm?
It's weird, isn't it?
So the whole dynamic changed.
If anything, like every Halloween, there should be doors shut, locked. Everybody's got a gun on them.
That's tradition. Yeah, it should be the tradition for them.
Yeah, because they're 4 years from Kills to Ends, and like every year they'll be like just waiting for Michael Myers to come back.
Yeah,
show that.
That's why I kind of like the Big John and Little John. They tell the story of Michael Myers' house, and when you come here, you die.
Yeah.
We should have that fear. It ends, but we don't. And that's why I love those characters, because they even know about Michael Myers, and they tell the stories to other kids, and those kids should be telling their friends. And then with Michael going missing, that should be the tradition every year. Lock your doors, bolt your windows. You know, that kind of thing.
No parties, no nothing. Like, that for me would be a big change. We've got two different ideas of what we want for Corey. We need to decide on one, what we think's the best out of all the options that we've got.
Well, no, I think we've both got the same idea for Corey.
Yeah.
Because if I'm including Corey, I'd go your idea. But I would also choose an idea where he doesn't exist.
Yes.
Which then would bring in Cameron. But Cameron would end up the same way Corey did anyway.
Yeah.
So whether it's Cameron or Corey at the end, I wouldn't mind, as long as it went the way that we both said that it would go. Whereas he would get stabbed in the throat. Doesn't matter if it's Corey or Cameron, stabbed in the throat, goes nuts, and goes after Alison, and then, which we'll get to next, maybe. Maybe not.
and that's your in for another Halloween movie.
Another decade or two.
Yeah. And you've got a young actor. It doesn't necessarily need to be Cameron, because well, maybe it would be, because he wouldn't take over the Michael Myers mask. It's a weird one, because you're like, what would he go with the same kind of mask as Corey, and then that becomes a character, or does he just take Myers' mask? I don't know.
Well, that's it, because he obviously had the Myers mask at one point, whether it's Corey or Cameron. Let's just go with Corey, because that's who it was.
He
had the mask, but obviously Michael took it back. So the mask was just sitting on the table at the end when Don't Fear the Reaper comes on. So there's nothing stopping him from getting that mask and going away with it and disappearing. And the only reason he disappears is not because he's scared of Laurie, it's because he's going after Alison, who's going to be in a different town. So that would be leading on to another movie that wouldn't be set in Haddonfield. Because Haddonfield is a character in itself. So you're taking that risk of leaving Haddonfield. But as we've seen in Halloween Ends, Haddonfield didn't really need to be there, because it didn't look like Haddonfield. No. It's a completely different place now.
Yeah, and I think it's a good ending, because you're closing the chapter on the Michael Myers
versus
Laurie Strode saga. You give Laurie Strode her happy ending, getting on with Hawkins. They become an item, and then that's her happy ending. She gets her day in the sun, and then focuses on Alison.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite cool that if Michael, stabs Corey in the throat, he becomes a mute. His body's gone when the town go to, because they're going to be too caught up on taking Michael Myers through the town. And I did love that scene. I did love that they were going through the town and everybody was,
No.
I thought it was a good way of being like closure for everybody in that town, to be like, the boogeyman's dead. We've seen it with our own eyes. We can now relax as normal humans now. And get about our days without the fear.
But it was a good distraction though, because it took all the pressure off of Corey.
Yeah.
If he survived and he can get out. And I don't know if you saw it it was at a pub or the diner, when they're looking at it on the news, they're saying that Michael Myers was responsible for all the deaths.
Right.
So Corey never got the blame for any death.
Yeah.
So he was innocent as far as everybody else is concerned. So if he disappears and leaves, nobody's going to be looking for him.
Yeah.
Because he's innocent.
I didn't spot that. That's quite cool.
So
It's a nice touch.
Michael's responsible for it all, as far as the news was concerned.
That's a nice touch. I never saw that.
They didn't want, even Laurie and Alison went with that. They thought, let's not tarnish the town with another Corey and another Michael Myers and Corey. Let's just make Michael Myers take the blame for it all.
Yeah.
And we can just end it. Because if they said, oh, Corey done it, then they'd be like, oh no, it can happen again.
It can happen again, it's a good point. But then, would it piss Halloween fans off if there was no Myers?
Well, yes. I've always said there's two types of Halloween fans. There's Halloween fans and there's Michael Myers fans.
Yeah.
I think fans of Michael Myers would be pissed off for definite, and I can see why.
Yeah.
But fans of Halloween, they just want to see a Halloween film with the same vision as what they had with the original. I don't think they would mind as long as it's done right.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, there's not very many ways they can go, especially with Myers, right?
Exactly.
They've gone back. Rob Zombie did the origin story. We can't have a prequel to 78 because it's going to be a bit dull. We can't have future because Myers is gone. The only other option for the way forward for the franchise is pick another timeline and go with that. Yeah. And that's going to cause problems as well. But at least you've got Myers back. Whereas if you want that Halloween slasher fix, you've got another 10 years with the Corey or Cameron's story and leading on to Alison being the Laurie. Because Andy Matichek's a fantastic actress as well.
She's good.
I don't see her getting cast in an awful lot after all of this, which is a shame.
Same with Rohan Campbell as Corey. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
If those two were the future of Halloween, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But you're saying going back to other timelines, and another issue we have is you can change the actor for Michael Myers all the time, but you can't change the actors for people who were already in those roles. So let's say we do a sequel to Halloween 4. You can change Michael Myers, we wouldn't care. But Dr. Loomis would have to be involved in Halloween 5 or this new Halloween 5.
Yeah.
So if you get somebody else to play him, people would just say, but he's not Donald Pleasance.
I know, and that's it. And even I thought they did a very good job with the prosthetics for the guy in Kills. I thought
that's good from a distance and for small periods. Imagine trying to do it in a full movie. You'd be like, it's just not him.
But then, do you pick a time? Do you start a new timeline where Loomis did die in 2 and Michael survived, and then but then you're going to have to continue to Laurie Strode.
Yeah, but then there's no point because the only person you would have that's prominent is Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So there's no point. So you just either start afresh with a new timeline completely or continue on with Halloween Ends, as much as people would hate that.
Yeah.
That's the only other options for now. Or you go the anthology route where it's nothing to do with anything.
They probably haven't realised how much they fucked themselves from that, by the way.
They've put themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Big time. Our ending, hopefully it would be less of a stressful ending, you know?
I know. We just need a few scenes filmed, really. We just need to get David Gordon Green on the phone and say, listen, mate, we've got you.
Watch this video first and then think about it.
I know. Could you imagine if David Gordon Green watched this? You know what I mean? I would say there's a much better chance on your channel, like, that some of these guys, you said Christopher Nelson watches.
My channel.
Like, even if he saw it, went, here's 2 guys for Scotland who have just cracked it. But no, it's done. And I think, for me, I was having this question with myself when I was doing this, the prep for this video. What do I want from the future of Halloween? Do I want it? Am I happy with it never having another Halloween Michael Myers movie, or do I want more? And I still don't know. And I think that's probably because it's too soon.
Yeah.
I think there's, as we said, they've backed themselves into a corner. They can't go back the way. They can't go forward. There's only a middle area, and picking a different timeline, you're like, do you pick up from Halloween 4 or 5? Then you're going to have to go into the Cult of 4, and that's like a no area because literally every fan hates it. Well,
almost.
Almost. Rob Zombie's Halloween was a chance for them to. If Rob Zombie made a better Halloween 2, I don't know if we would have got 2018 and Kills and Ends. I'm not sure.
Probably not.
And that could have been a franchise because you've started again, you've rebooted, but another reboot when your franchise already had a reboot.
And numerous reboots.
Yeah,
you know, it's hard.
You're then turning into Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Where you've had 2 reboots in the space of 10 years of the first one coming out.
Yeah. It's a hard one.
So, yeah, everybody's going to have their opinions of what they want, but for me, I'm okay with not having a Halloween movie.
See, I'm a bit selfish for 2 reasons. One, I just love to watch Halloween films.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see another Halloween film to see how it goes. It could be bad, but that's the chance I'm willing to take. And also, with another Halloween film being announced, if it is, then I get to do more content on my channel.
That's true. That's very true.
So yeah, and more people would obviously watch. So,
and also, could they just be like, we're just making another Halloween movie. It's going to have Michael Myers in it, but it's not going to have any tie to any movie. And we're just going to make a Michael Myers movie.
Like they done in Friday the 13th, 2009.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
That's literally a remake, but it could be a reboot. It could be a reimagining. It could be anything. It was just a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
That's why I loved it.
I loved it as well.
So good.
I absolutely loved the Friday the 13th remake.
They can do that. They can do that with Halloween. They can do a James Bond Halloween where every 3 or 4 films, they give us a story arc and it finishes, Michael dies, and then they start again. Give us another story with somebody else that's getting chased by Michael. Michael dies, maybe doesn't, and then they start again.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
That's true. And if people want the Laurie Strode saga, they've already got it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If people want to pick a time, because everybody will have their favourite timeline, you know.
I've got my favourite. I don't even think I've ever asked you your favourite timeline.
I would say 1:18 Kills and Ends.
Is it?
I just think overall they're the most rewatchable.
Right. They are.
Whereas Halloween 1 and 2, the original Halloween and Halloween 2 are my favourite. They're 2 that I just constantly watch. Like at Halloween, they're part of my 2 favourite movies. I know they're a lot different from each other, but I just love 1 and 2. If it ended at 1 and 2, that would be my favourite timeline, you know. Which I suppose it could be.
Well, yeah, you can. That's what I've got actually an upcoming video, and maybe out before this, about timelines. But you can choose your timeline, really. Yeah. You know, my timeline, my preferred timeline is Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O.
That's right.
And it ends, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's so simple, and it's got the biggest impact for me because 20 years, they come face to face after 20 years, and then it's done.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. Halloween 1, 2, and H2O. Yeah, I would probably say the same. H2O, I think, could be a lot better as well. I know you're a huge fan of it, but for me, it could be a wee bit better. I
think the only thing they could do with H2O is make it longer.
Yeah.
Because it's short.
Aye. I would agree with that. Yeah, a bit more. So much more they could have done with it. But we have managed to come together with a plan of David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. Is there anything else before we finish up that we would change or that...
No, I think we're both, not just us two, I think a lot. The majority, I would say, I'm confident to say the majority would change probably similar, if not identically the same things that we're changing.
Yeah.
Because I think the beef that people have with each movie is the same as ours. Like, the biggest issue in 18 is Sartain.
Yeah.
The biggest issue in Kills is probably maybe the town folk and Tivoli scene.
Yeah.
And Ends is the rushed aspect of Corey and obviously the randomness of the movie, you know, like it completely feels different to the other 2 films.
Would you still have, as much as I hate the scene of the mob versus Michael, would you still have that scene? But if it was shot in a better way, it wasn't so kind of music video Like,
Yeah.
would you still have that?
I would still have it, yeah, because if the mob are going to be rebellious, they're going to have to be looking for Michael, and if they find him,
Yeah.
set it in an alleyway, set it with not the whole mob, maybe
Yeah.
give it 3 or 4 people fighting Michael, and not making it too extreme with Michael being shot and stuff.
Yeah. I always thought as well, maybe the town should have killed the Penguin character.
Tivoli.
Yeah. Maybe the town should have killed him, and that's the moment of, fuck, look how far we've gone. We've almost turned into Michael with,
Yeah.
you know, that could be an interesting way. I know
They
they are
metaphorically killed
responsible.
him.
Yeah. But if they got their hands on him, that's kind of what I was waiting for, just them to trample him and just kill him.
Well, they would have if they caught him.
Yeah.
So
that would have been interesting. I think the suicide for me in another film maybe would have been a bit more impactful, but in this film I remember feeling sad for the guy, but at the same time I was just kind of like, I don't need this. I think as well,
I don't need this.
going from personal experience as well, it kind of made me think back to that time in my life. So I was kind of like,
where people can push you
yeah,
and not think about the repercussions of what's happening.
And just having that headspace of, I'm just going to end it, you know.
But you don't want that when you're watching a film, don't you know?
Yeah, no.
You go to a movie to escape that.
Yeah, and it's not like I can't watch a movie where there's suicide in it, you know. I think if it's done well, it's done well, but with that, maybe just it was a timing thing for me.
No, it's the same with me. Like with the line of work that I do professionally, I see that stuff every day, and it's not needed in horror films because horror films should be. I know you want a realistic horror film, but you want an unrealistic scenario. In a realistic scenario, it's hard to explain, but you want to escape the real world. Yeah, and that was more real world social commentary. Than anything.
Aye, and that's my biggest argument with film in general. Is just you don't want politics involved because you can switch on your TV and get politics within 2 seconds. I want to go to a movie to sit down. Cinema is like my happy place. It's like my place that I feel most chilled. I love that I can have a big bag of sweets and a big ice fizzy drink or something like that, or a nice blast or whatever you call them, and just sit and enjoy a movie and switch off for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's what cinema's supposed to be.
I know that they say that, but we need to include these in movies because this is how people will get to see it. Well, if people are that interested, they will do what you say. They'll watch the news.
Yeah.
If they don't want to watch the news, they don't want to know about social commentary. They don't want to know about politics. They want to watch movies to escape.
I know.
And that's what Halloween movies do for me.
Yeah. And all horror movies kind of like they're like the comfort movie almost.
Absolutely.
Because they can just switch off and be like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, I think we've done a good job of breaking down each movie and what we would change. Considering I was 80% my notes. I was like, I've got 80% of what I think. I just haven't figured out that little bit.
Well, the other 20% could be the comments section.
That's very true. So turning it to you guys.
I get a lot of ideas and inspiration from the comments as well, which is good. So if you guys think there's anything that we should have not changed, or if there's something that we missed that you think would have been good to change and would have benefited any of the films, then leave those comments down below. Yeah. Because I think we'll get good discussions with people that would say, well, I would do this and I would do that. And I would be like, do you know what? That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I would do this and that. So
we didn't think of it. So please let us know, and we'd appreciate any response. And did you like what we had to say? Yeah. And what is your say? So thank you very much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. I know Barry does as well. But can we please just get Barry to 50,000 subscribers ASAP?
But that's all right. Let's subscribe to Callum as well. Though Callum's obviously just new at the YouTube stuff. He's got the talent. He's got the knowledge as well. So hopefully you can get something out of this as well. Yeah, and you'll be able to check out Barry and I's podcast together, which will be up there as well, if you want to get a wee bit more background on Barry. There you go. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!